Since the Syrian civil war began in 2011, an estimated 400,000 Syrians have been killed, according to the United Nations. As of March 2017, more than 5 million Syrians have fled the country, and 6.3 million people are displaced internally. The direct cause of the Syrian conflict is popular discontent with the authoritarian regime of Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president. However, a number of experts and scholars have highlighted the impact that climate change, drought, and poor resource management have had in creating this crisis. Dr. Colin Kelley, Senior Research Fellow with the Center for Climate and Security at Columbia University, is a climate scientist focusing on climate variability and change.
I'm primarily concerned with studying regional climate change, mostly having to do with rainfall in areas that are semi-arid or arid and therefore the most vulnerable to water and food security issues.
These issues, intrinsically linked to the environment and climate change, were critical in the uprisings that led to the Syrian civil war. Dr. Kelley was the lead author of a paper that argued that anthropomorphic climate change, that is, global warming caused by humans, very likely worsened a historic drought in Syria. In the paper, he argued that human activity has resulted in potentially permanent changes to wind and rainfall patterns. The well-documented drought caused socioeconomic and ideological tensions to flare up as farmers lost their livelihood and moved to cities that were ill-equipped to aid them. The tensions finally came to a head in the southern city of Drought in March 2011, during protests against the imprisonment of several teenagers who were incarcerated for their anti-Assad regime graffiti. During this protest, security forces opened fire on the protesters, killing several.
I think one of the big takeaways from the Syria paper, and one of the important things that we wanted to point out, was that even though they were experiencing climate change, that they have experienced multi-year droughts, even severe ones, in the past, and that climate change was serving to exacerbate some of their existing vulnerability and uncertainties.
The authoritarian regime's crackdown on dissidents and protesters inflamed the discontent and caused the major humanitarian and socio-political crisis we see today.
There was very little foresight from the government in terms of making the kind of decisions that would be necessary to move toward a more sustainable future with respect to agriculture and water policy. So I think that that's a good lesson that can be learned, that it's not only the climate change that's going to serve to create these problems, but it's going to exacerbate the existing problems, and that it's important to think about these issues on a longer time scale.